gonna start the recording, and we're good there. Okay, cool. So let's get moving. So today's topic is regular expressions. And so data can be very messy. And so this can be something that you run into a lot. And it's a really important thing because a lot of software engineers face this problem quite often. So whether it be manipulating data or translating data from one sort of format to another, regular expressions help you out a lot. And we're going to talk about how to use them. So yeah, as I said, data can be very messy, and it's not always the way that you want it to be formatted. So let's take a look at a couple examples. Phone numbers, right? So this is one way to write a phone number. Here's another. Here's another. And nope, that's a date. So yeah, we have three different versions of phone numbers, right? And so all of these are perfectly valid, right? Some people write it with the parentheses, other people write it with the +1 and then the other numbers, and other people write it like it's an IP address. I don't know why that's a thing, but people do it. Yeah, so essentially, there are all these different ways to write phone numbers, and none of them are technically wrong, but you can see them. And when you have a human entering things into a form box, they can do it in all these different ways, and you don't know which one is going to be right. So another example is dates, right? So here's one way to write a date, right? Here's another. Here's a third. Here's a fourth. Here's even a fifth, right? There are all kinds of different ways to write dates, and you run into the same issue. So this is why regular expressions are becoming a thing, or have become a thing, is because dates, phone numbers, any data that a human is entering can have variation in how we format it just because of regional differences, whatever, right? And as a result, you're going to run into a lot of these issues. So one solution to this problem is regex, as I said. And so regex, or regular expressions, is this idea of taking a look at a string and seeing if you can find any patterns with it. So yeah, as I said, regex for short, with a G, so like regular expressions, just regex. Some people pronounce it regex. That is technically incorrect in North America. What is regex and what does it look like? Well, that's a little bit of an interesting question because basically it's a sequence of characters that define how to find a sequence of characters. And so it's usually a pattern used to find a string using a searching algorithm. And depending on what language you're using, it can be in a bunch of different ways, and it just depends on what you're using. So yeah, it's something that's covered in 374, specifically this formal language theory piece. But regular expressions is this way of putting together strings from other strings. And yeah, as I said, formal language theory is 374, or part of 374. So in more simple words, something that anyone can understand, it allows you to define a pattern to match text, right? Computers are really good at going through things quickly, and this is one of those things that you can do with computers. So I'm going to be honest, the pattern looks really weird and super scary if you don't know what regex is, right? I didn't know about it until about a year ago, and I thought it looked terrible and got very afraid. And this is an example. I know, it looks kind of crazy. We're actually going to be talking about exactly how to decode this later on in lecture, so you won't be afraid of it. But this is an example where you might be like, okay, well, what is this? So yeah, I wasn't lying. That's the gist of that. So how do we build these patterns? Well, let's take a look at this body of text, right? So we have hello CS196 in Illinois, and we just have a little bit of text behind it. So let's say we want to find CS196 from this string, right? What is the regular expression that I can use to find CS196? Well, one thing I can do is just put CS196, and that's a valid regular expression. And so all I have to do is just put in CS196 into the function that calls or takes a regular expression, and it will return that for me. Now, that's a little boring, but we are going to show it off. So here we go. Let me clean up this regex. So CS196, and as you see, there you go. You get exactly what we were looking for. So as you can see, it's a little boring, right? It's only getting us CS196. What if we want to find all of the different CS courses? Well, for that, we have a different way to use regular expressions. Before we do that, we have our sort of bank or cheat sheet, and we're going to be building on this all lecture long. And so we have letters and numbers. So this is basically just look for this exact letter or look for this exact number. So what if we wanted to get all CS courses, right? Well, to do that, we're going to use a different pattern, and that is using /D. And so what this is doing is it's telling us instead of looking for the letter D, we put a backslash and then a D. And that will tell us escape, don't treat this like a normal character, it's a special character. And then D in regular expressions is what's a digit, essentially. So it's going to say, look for anything that has C, S, and then digit, digit, digit. A is not a number, believe it or not. Pretty disappointing, I know. So yeah, if you look at this one, right, if you do CS and then digit, 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 you're going to get all of the different CS courses. So let's take a look at that example. So if we go back and my cursor shows up, we can replace this with those /Ds, and you're going to see all of the different CS courses get highlighted. And so, by the way, this is a really useful tool, regexpal.com. It basically dynamically will show all of the regular expressions show up for you in real time as you're going. So yeah, it's super useful to take a look at that and just test out a regular expression as you go. I would highly recommend it when you're working with a regular expression. So back to the slides. We now have talked about how to use digits, and I just showed you a demo of that. Also, I'm going to do another quick example here. Let's try and do something like, what if we only want to do CS 200 level classes, right? So we can do CS 2 digit digit, and now you see we get anything that's a 200 level. Okay, so yeah, looking at our cheat sheet, I might have also forgotten something. No, okay. So yeah, /D with a capital D, this is where things get a little bit more complex. Basically, a capital D is the opposite of a lowercase d. So in this case, it's going to tell us, look for anything that isn't a digit. So in regular expressions, the uppercase meta character is always the inverse of the lowercase. So that's what I just said in a little bit more complex speak. But essentially, if I wanted to do, say, anything where I get, let's say, let me find a good example. Well, actually, let's do the reverse. So let's say we want two capitals, and then we want one, and then we can have any numbers after us. Now, this will give us any courses at all with a 100 level in it. So you can see we only have 3 here. So with all that in mind, let's do our first poll question of the night. So let me open up the poll bot. So yeah, this question is, what is the regular expression to match phone numbers in the format of 734-930-3030? And then it has a couple of different examples here, and it's just a question of which one do you think is right. Okay, it looks like everyone is done, so I'm going to close the bot. Okay, so yeah, everyone put C or 3, which is correct. So in this case, we're looking for sets of numbers. So we're going to do digit, 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 dash, digit, 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 dash, digit, 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 digit. That is really a tongue twister. Saying digit 10 times fast is not easy, but we got through it. So yeah, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but let's go on to the next question. Let me open it up. So yeah, this question is, what is the regular expression to match a 100 level class formatted with XY 100, with XY being any non-digit. And so this can be any 100 level course. All right, I'll give everyone another 30 seconds or so. Okay, looks like everyone's in. So let me close the bot. So yeah, the correct answer is 1 here. And so in this case, we're looking for, actually, yeah. So in this case, I was about to say it was 4, but it is 1. The correct answer is 1 because 2 is going to match any course. So this could be like CS123 or whatever, right? 3 is going to match only XY100, and then 4 is only going to match any XY course, which is not what we want. So good job there. Everyone got it. So let's talk about another example of something that we're looking for. What if you wanted to parse anything that comes before a comma from this text, right? So we have a bunch of different courses here, and we want to get all of them from the commas. So what we can do is we can put periods. And so what a period does is it's a wildcard character. And what that will tell you is basically any character can work there. So as you can see here, we have hello, which works, but also all of the CS courses. And so this is a really interesting scenario that you run into when you're working with regular expressions where you may actually have an unintended side effect just because of how you wrote it in a way that you weren't expecting it to be written. So yeah, periods are great, but they can also be very dangerous if you aren't very closed and restricted in terms of how you're actually setting up your regular expression. So let's demo this. Let me go over here. And so yeah, let's get CS1, or we'll get anything before a comma. As you can see, now we have all of those. Okay, so that is the sort of wildcard character. Let's go on to our cheat sheet again, and let's talk about this. So as we said before, we have all the letters and all the numbers. Then we have digits, we have any non-digit, we have the wildcard, which is the period. And then what we have to match that is the backslash with the period. And that basically says, since period is now any character, we need a character that we can use to actually represent period, right? Like what if we're looking for a decimal, right? If we're looking for the first two digits in a decimal or something, right? That's an example of where you're going to want to actually look for the period. So this is our cheat sheet. Let's do poll question number 3. Let me create the bot. And feel free to start answering. So somebody asked in a Twitch chat, what if you, for some reason, want the slash character that we're using to escape? And this is a really good question. Use another one of those slash characters. So I'll put it in the chat as well, just so that you can kind of get an idea. But you just put that slash in front of it, and then it's going to know that that slash is correct. So let me go and stop the poll. Okay, so it looks like most people chose 2 and then someone chose 3. So the reason that 2 is correct is that you have 5 periods in a row, which are basically any 5 characters. And then the last part where you have that slash is telling you, I don't want any character, I want a period. So remember with the periods, it's actually inverse, the periods themselves are any character, whereas the slash period is the actual character, unlike any other character. So what if we want to get a little bit more specific in what we'd like to capture, right? So here's an example, right? We want to only capture the top two phone numbers because the bottom one might be something completely random and ridiculous, and we don't know what the L and the T mean or if they matter. So what is the pattern to do this? Well, we need to use square brackets and then put whatever we find acceptable use inside of those brackets. So in this case, we can define a set of acceptable characters, and we only want dashes or periods, so we can just put those in, and that's what it'll give us. So here's an example, right? We have decimal, 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 or digit, digit, digit. Then we have a dash or a period, then three more, then dash or a period, and then four more. So let's take a look at that. I think this is on this tab. No, it is not. Okay. I forgot to write up a demo, but yeah, trust me, that works. I know, crazy concept. Actually, I'm going to write these out. Let me copy paste them. And then let me get our regular expression. And there you go. So as you can see, that is working just as expected. And those are my notes. Sorry about the reconfiguration here. I flipped things around. Now my slides are on the other screen, so let me see if I can get it back over here. There we go. Okay, and then I bring that back over there. All right, sorry about the delay there. Almost set back up. Okay, perfect. So yeah, in this example, you can see we have a dash or a period, and let's say for some reason we allow hashtags, right? So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can throw a hashtag in here, and now you'll see that that is also accepted. So you can do a lot of cool things where you start restricting stuff, and it's going to be a lot harder for people to put in a lot of different things. Also, someone mentioned production quality just went down just a little bit. Okay, not that much in the long run. So what if instead of defining what you want to define what you don't want? And so this is a really key concept because maybe you want to get everything except for numbers. And so here's an example, right? We have a bunch of three-letter words. So on the left are all the three-letter words I could think of quickly that end in OG. And then on the right are some that don't. So in this case, what if you wanted all of the OG words that aren't invalid? So on the right-hand side, we have a shorter list of ones that are invalid. So what is the pattern? That's the pattern. So you can see we have this caret symbol, or this hat symbol as other people like to call it. And what this is going to do is it's going to say basically take any of those characters, and if it's not one of those, go ahead and do it. So it's basically the inverse. And so this is super useful in this case because now you can get all of the ones that you're looking for as opposed to all the ones that you're not, because the ones that you're not looking for are much shorter than the ones that you're looking for. I know that was a little bit of a confusing sentence, but my point being that it's shorter to write A, E, I, O, Q, R, U than it is to write B, C, D, F, G, H, J, L, M, N, T. So yeah, we can also match ranges of characters to avoid redundancy, and so this looks like A-P there, and you can do the same with numbers. And so what this looks, or what this is important for is, let's say you want only lowercase letters. You can do that by doing this. Or you want only uppercase letters, same thing. And this saves you a lot of time. And so let's say we have this massive list, right? What if you wanted all of the 200, 300, and 400 level classes, but not the 100 levels? So in that case, what you're going to do is you're going to say CS, and then you're going to put brackets 2 through 4, and then 2 digits after that. And now you'll see you're going to get all of the 200, 300, and 400 level classes. And so this is super useful when you're trying to get data where there might be a range in a spot and you don't want to have to write out everything, especially when it gets super large. So going back to our cheat sheet, here is what we have now. So as you can see, we've added the ABC characters in the brackets, and this will let us choose any of those characters. Then we have the ranges, which have a dash in between. And then we have the caret symbol, which will basically say not any of these. So those are all the new additions that we have to our cheat sheet. So let's take a look at the poll question. So this question is, what is the regular expression, or the regex, to match anything except 100 level courses from an ECE catalog, right? You want to know what are 200 level courses, 300, whatever. What are the possible options for that? All right, I'll give everyone another couple seconds here. All right, so it looks like there's a 50-50 split, which means that only half of you are correct, if this were a normal question. In this case, it is technically 3 or 4. You could have done either not 1 or 2 through 9, and either would work, and there are merits to both. One of them will have a very different meaning than another, and both of them work but have different meanings, right? So in this case, right, with 3, you're going to be able to do all the 0-100 level classes, if those are a thing. But with option number 4, you're not going to have something like ECE, EE00, right? Like you could put anything, including characters, inside of that, and it would technically work. So that's why you're trying to avoid something like worse, but it really depends on the situation. So what if we want to specify how many times we want to repeat a character? And so instead of typing A 100 times to match and so on, we can actually just type something much more simple and easy. So what does that look like? That looks like this. So if we had the phone numbers, instead of doing /D a bunch of times, we can now use these brackets and say, okay, I want /D 3 times, and then I want the rest, and so on and so forth. And so every time you do this, it's going to say, okay, repeat this 3 times. So if we go back to our phone number example and change this, there we go. And then I'm just going to copy this and do it this way. And so as you can see, our option gets a little bit shorter, and now it's going to be a little bit easier to read that throughout. And you can also change this much more easily if we only want, say, the first 3 numbers, or let's say we want only 1 number, and we can change this, and it'll be a lot quicker to make changes than having to modify the entire massive string. So yeah, that's the phone number with repeated characters. And what if you want a hey, but it can have more than 1 E, but not 5, right? So in this case, we only want the second one because the first one only has 1 E, and then the third one has way too many E's. That's too casual of a hey, right? So in this case, we're going to use H, E, and then we're going to use these brackets, but we're going to put an upper and lower bound. And so these are inclusive. So this means anywhere between 2 and 5 E's are okay. And so if we go to our second example, you can see we have HY, we have hey with many more. And I'm also going to remove a lot of this because this was meant for later on. So if we do E, that's not E, there, 2, 5, and then Y, there we go. And so as you can see, if I just remove these, now only the second one works, which is great. And So now there are also two shortcuts you can use for common repetitions, and these are the clean star and clean addition. So these are clean with a K, K-L-E-I-N, I'm pretty sure. And so what these are going to do is it's going to say 0 or more of and 1 or more of, right? Because these are two of the most common examples that you're going to get. And so if we go back to that example, hopefully it lets me Command Z, and yes, it does. So yeah, as you can see here, right, we have hey, and then we put like an H and then an E and so on, and we have these pluses. And so what this is going to do is it's going to say, okay, H I want. Then I want 1 or more E. I want 1 or more Y. And then I want 0 or more exclamation marks. And all of these bottom three are now valid, whereas this one is not. And so this gives you a much more wide variety of haze, but it's kind of nice because it allows you to dedicate it to only specific characters. So yeah, as you can see in this demo, that's how that kind of works. And let's say we want only one H, we can change it to not have that plus, or if we want to have 0 H's, we can have it be that, and so on. So we have a lot of different options, and let's say we want exactly 2, we can say 2, and now we'll only get that one. So this is super useful for a bunch of different reasons, and yeah, that's pretty much like the shortcuts using pluses and stars. So looking at our cheat sheet now, as you can see, we have M repetitions, M to N repetitions, we have 1 or more, and then 0 or more. So these are all the new things that we just added this time. It's a pretty small list, but it's still pretty sizable and important. So let me start up our next poll here. And I will show you the poll. So what is the regex to match between 2 and 6 of any character? Is it dot plus? Is it dot 2 comma 6? Is it slash dot slash D star? Or is it dot 1 comma 7? Okay, so I'm now going to I'm going to close up the poll. Okay, so it looks like about 2/3 put the answer as 2, and then 1/3 put the answer as 3. And so what the answer is 2, and that's because we're saying any character, which is this dot, and then for between 2 and 6 times. So the reason that 3 is wrong is because we're saying anything that is not a digit, but what if we wanted a 1, 2, or 3, right? I say any character, not just any like letter, I say any character. And then on top of that, this star says 0 or more. So if I literally had just a space, that would satisfy this, whereas that would not satisfy this. And remember also, this would only be 2 and 6 of a specific character. It wouldn't be 2 of 6, 2 and 6 of like any character. So it could be a repeating character, it could be any character. So what if we want to have an option of whether or not something occurs, right? So something that occurs 0 or 1 times. So here's a good example of that. Going back to our phone number example, we now have a third number here that has a set of parentheses around it. So let me go back to our phone numbers and let's add a set of parentheses around this. And I'm going to get rid of the hashtags and add some parentheses. Okay, so that's still valid. We want to read it. And so how do we improve upon this? Well, it's simple. All we have to do is put a question mark after the character. So as you can see, we put the slash here to say this is actually a parentheses and not just a like specific regex character. And I'll get into what that regex character does in a minute, but for now, just know that we have to escape it. And then I say optional, right? So I'm saying escape, create a parenthesis if there's a parenthesis there, and then say, but it doesn't have to be there. And so if we do that over here, right? So let me go, I'm going to put an escaped parentheses, and then I'm going to put a question mark and say, if it has it, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. And now on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. And there we go. So now it can be in parentheses, but it doesn't have to be. So now that we have this pattern, what if we want to apply these like meta characters and have more than just single characters, right? So what if we want to do something like optional area code, right? So let's take a look at this example. So we have ABC, 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 1, 2, 3, ABC, 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 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 itself, right? So what is our pattern to only get the bottom three? What we have to do is say ABC, and then we have a plus, and then 1, 2, 3. And what that's telling us is it's saying group A, B, and C together as an expression, and then say we want one or more of those, and then we want 1, 2, 3 at the end. So that's why we had to escape it for the phone number, because this is how we group characters together. We can also have matching groups inside of the groups. And so what that looks like is with these, right, we have images, and we can have different endings to the images, but we only want, we want all of these, right? So we know that all of them have image, but they have different endings to the second half. So in this case, what we say is we want IMG, and then we want potentially one or more digits, and then it doesn't have to have any digits. And then after that, because now we've covered up until this point for these ones, and then up until this point for this one, then it has the option of a file ending where it has potentially .new, or it does not have .new, and then it has .png. And so that's how we get all of these different ones all in one continuous regex, which is quite a lot. I know it gets kind of crazy, especially when you're dealing with a bigger one, but hopefully you're kind of following along. So what if we want to use multiple options, right? So what if we want to do I love cats or I love dogs, right? We want to do all of these, but we don't want I love logs or I love cogs, right? This is very anti-engineering regular expression. So what we do is we put I love, and then we put inside of our grouping cats, and then the logical or operator, or dogs, right? And so just like in Python, it's going to say I love the left thing or the right thing. It doesn't have to be both. It can just be one. And so if you put both, it actually probably won't work, and we can test that out actually. Let's open up a new tab here. I love cats. I love dogs. I love cats, dogs. And so now if we put I love, and then inside here, cats or dogs, there we go. And if I change that to actually be dogs, yep. So as you can see, it will only take the first one in that regular expression. So looking back at our regex cheat sheet, now you can see we have the optionality with the question mark, which means one or more, one or none. Then we have capture groups, which will basically group different things together. And then we can actually put those groups inside of other groups to do a lot more complex things. And then we can also do X or Y, and we can have both those, and it's a logical or operator. So let me create the next poll. I think we're on 5, right? Nope, we're on 6. Question number 6 already. I am blazing through this lecture. So poll question 6 is, what is the regular expression to match the first 3 but skip the last one? So we want 1 file found, question mark, 2 files found, question mark, 24 files found, question mark. But we don't want no files found, period. Also, I'm realizing I'm in the way, so I'm going to swap over to this camera for a minute. Okay, I'm going to close the poll in another 10 seconds or so. Okay, so this one is very divided. So it looks like about half of you put 2, and then the rest were split between 3, 4, and 1. So the correct answer here is 3. And so the reason of this is that we want 1 or more A's, and then we want, I'm realizing we might have actually, yeah, I might have put the wrong thing on the wrong slide. That probably confused a lot of you. Yeah, that's my bad. Okay, well, not much I can do about this slide. We're just going to ignore that question, and I'll fix it for the people watching this recorded, and this will be an exercise for people who have to do this on Prairie Learn. So what is the regular expression to match between 2 and 6 of any character? I'm realizing yeah. So as you can see, I may or may not have copy pasted the questions on these slides. Let's see. Yeah, we've already done 2 and 6 of any. Okay, I see what's going on. So these answers match to this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that image into Twitch chat so that you can see that. Maybe might have also just killed the slides. That's fun. Yeah, this lecture is definitely not going quite to plan. Yeah, it looks like I killed the slides. Okay, let me get those slides back up on the screen. You know, when I was making the Twitch title for tonight, I saw that it was lecture number 13. I'm like, there's no way 13 is actually going to be unlucky. Come on, that's a myth. And then this happened. So yeah, I'm just going to blame this on this being lecture number 13 and there being nothing I can do about that. So let's see if I can get the presenter notes back. We're all the way at the beginning. Fun. Okay. Apologies for the interruption. Again, yeah, lecture number 13, unlucky lecture number 13. Let's get back to that slide. This is a live production, people. All right, so let me screenshot this for everyone. I will put it in the Twitch chat so that you can see that. We're going to try question number 6 again with the correct answers this time. So yeah, in this case, you want to be matching 1 file found, 2 files found, or 24 files found, question mark. And you can see this in the Twitch chat on Discord. My apologies for the lecture slides. Lecture 13 is not going my way, apparently. All right, so finalize your answers. I'm going to close up Pollbot. Okay, so it looks like most of you selected 1, which, let me just go double check that. The correct answer is 1, yeah. Okay, so yeah, 2 is wrong because there's no escape character before the final question mark. So yeah, if you look, you have found question mark, but you need to escape it because otherwise you're actually going to basically make this D optional. Then 3 is wrong because the S after the file isn't optional, so it could be files or file, and this S not having a question mark means that it always has to be files. And then 4 is wrong because it's always going to do file instead of files. Okay, and then I believe this is the final one. Question 8. What is the regular expression to match all 3 of these? Buy more milk, buy more bread, or buy more juice? So lock in your answers. I'll give you about 30 seconds. Okay, I'm going to close up the bot. Okay, so it looks like 75% of you chose 1, whereas the other 25% chose 3. And the correct answer here is 1. And so I know this is kind of confusing, and it is definitely a little bit weird if you haven't seen this before, or if you do actually know what the difference between these two are. But the correct answer in this case is it's going to be the singular bar for OR. I know a lot of you are probably doing Java in CS125, so you're going to be pretty confused by that, but it is 1 bar in regular expressions, and there's a whole reasoning behind that that I'm not going to get into. And then in terms of the brackets, that's just wrong syntax. And as I said, with number 3, it's got 2 bars instead of 1, which is incorrect. So yeah, that is poll question 8. Now let's talk about this sheet that you're seeing and are probably freaking out about, right? This is a pretty big sheet. It's got a bunch of stuff on it. Yeah, this is a regular expression. The best way I would put it is notation sheet. And so what this will tell you is like anything that you want to use that like you could reasonably use as a reference. Because I'm going to be honest, odds are that you remember everything that we talked about in class. I don't really expect. Whereas being able to decipher the sheet now that you've seen it before and take a look at a regular expression and sort of decode it instead of thinking it's some weird alien language from some messed up compiling error is much more likely now. So you can actually use regular expressions in your everyday life, and it comes in really handy, especially for things like interview problems. So yeah, this is a reference sheet. You can always pull these up. Just Google like regex expression sheet, and you'll find one pretty quickly. And so here's an interesting thing. This is from, I think, spring 2019? No, spring 2020. So about a year ago, we used this. And so I used to work on the homework team for CS196, and one thing that we did was we wrote homeworks for Prairie Learns, and we use regular expressions. And so in this example, you can see that we have that right about here to make sure that we are actually doing things with expressions rather than just saying, oh, did someone actually type out the letter C every single time? And so that way you're getting a much more valid response instead of just saying, oh, it could be anything. And so yeah, this is an example of us actually practicing what we're preaching and using it in real life. So announcements. The biggest one is that we're going to have grades out at some point soon. For up until now, we're going to have sprint 0 graded, and then pretty much everything on Prairie Learn up until now, the Git homeworks. We will not have the front-end homework done graded yet, but we'll have everything else grading-wise hopefully squared away. What else? Also, I realized my camera's off. So yeah, instead of just staring at boring announcements. Basically, uh, we've got all of the grading for the most part up to date. We've talked with PMs, kind of got a general sense after Sprint Zero, and we're going to keep doing those grades as we go along now. We're going to try and make them more regular. We just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling and get a few grades in there. If your grade is lower than you expect it, don't freak out. It's something that a lot of people worry about in this class, but this class is more about the concepts that we teach than the grade that you get. And we will take care of you as best as we can. For any evidence of that, take a look at the past distributions for this class, and you'll see just sort of how we handle grades in this class. If it is lower than you want and you like have a serious concern that you want to come talk to any of us about, please DM myself, Eustace, your PM. Just talk to someone about it before you think about dropping or anything like that, because we do want to support you and we do want you to get something out of this class as opposed to worrying about your grade the entire time. Aside from that, Sprint 1 is now semi-officially ended. It ended about an hour ago before this lecture. So at this point, you're probably going to start moving towards things like actual developing or actually developing your project and start like getting further into the project. So hopefully this week and next week are going to be a lot more fun because you actually get to start building what you were hoping to build at the start of this. And announcements wise, I think that's everything. The only other thing is that Eustace will be back on Tuesday for, I think it's back end, and then he'll be doing next week, and then I think another 2 weeks after that. So basically, this is going to be my last lecture for a while, but then I will be back for, I think, like 3 lectures right around the project midterm point. And after that, we move into Rust. So we're getting through the course, definitely a fair way through. And that's pretty much everything that I have, though. In terms of lecture 13, I do apologize. There were a lot of issues in this one. I'm going to chalk that up to bad luck, but hopefully next time will go a little bit better. And I hope you all enjoy your weekends.